Hey, it's Wade, and today I'm going to talk about the games that I own for the Nintendo Switch and which ones are the best. I've owned my Nintendo Switch now since it came out. I bought it within the first few days of it coming out because I really wanted to play Breath of the Wild. It looked like the most amazing Zelda game and actually one of the most amazing games in general. And I was right about that. I was not disappointed. So I spent the first solid 2 months of my ownership of the Nintendo Switch just playing Breath of the Wild. And after about 2 months of playing it like every day, I beat the game, got everything except for, like 600 of the Korok seeds because they're everywhere and there's a ton of them. And I didn't actually own another game for a little while after that. My Nintendo Switch was the Zelda machine. I knew that Super Mario Odyssey was coming out soon, but honestly, based off of the trailers that I had seen back in, 2017 or whatever it was, I thought the game looked kind of like cheesy and like way too aimed at kids. And I've enjoyed most Mario games, but it's felt to me like didn't think the hat thing seemed all that cool, and it weirded me out that there was actual human looking people in the game. So I didn't buy that for a year. So anyway, though, I'm just going to run through all of the games that I own on the Switch, and I'll just describe them a little bit and talk about how much I like them, but then I think I'll decide my top three. I had Breath of the Wild, Stardew Valley, Skyrim, Super Mario Odyssey, Wizard of Legend, Octopath Traveler, Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, Moonlighter, The Messenger, Slay the Spire, Overcooked, and Hollow Knight. Like I said, Breath of the Wild, automatically, I don't even have to think about it, that is definitely probably just the number one. That game alone makes the purchase of the Nintendo Switch worthwhile. So that's already top spot for best games on the Switch that I've played. But let's go through the other ones. So, Stardew Valley. It's not a Switch exclusive, of course. It came out to the Switch after it was already out on PC, on Steam and stuff. I put a solid couple months into that game too. There's so much depth and so much creativity and love put into that game, and you can really tell that too. And that's probably because it's made by one singular guy. That game, I could still just pick it up and play it and do more stuff in it. But the main reason I stopped playing is because I got to the 3-year point in the game. So basically, Stardew Valley, for those of you who have not played it or maybe have not heard of it, is a quaint little game, kind of reminiscent to, say, like a combination of Animal Crossing and Harvest Moon. And you have a plot of land and a house, and you plant fruits and vegetables in your plot of land and create a farm. And then seasons pass, and in each season there's different vegetables and things to produce. And there's also a mine that you can go off and adventure and mine in. You can go around the town and chop down trees and gather. There's also a bunch of people that live in the town that you can build relationships with. After 3 years of in-game time, your farm is like judged, and I decided that would be basically that's like what the main game is. I would play it until that point, and it was really fun. And then I got Skyrim because, of course, I played Skyrim back on the Xbox 360 in 2011, and that's one of the best games there is for good reason. It deserves the hype. So I wanted to relive the nostalgia after 6 years. And Skyrim is one of the games on the Switch that I do play on and off, like between games. Say I beat a game, I might go back to Skyrim for a month, and then I get a new game and beat that and go back to Skyrim. And Super Mario Odyssey, I finally decided to buy it because I had heard so many good things about it. And I was like, it's a Mario game. Nintendo with their mainline series, they typically always pretty great. So even if I thought it looked weird or cheesy, I gave it a shot anyway. And that game was amazing. Actually, the music is amazing, the graphics are really great, the movement and sense of control and capabilities of what Mario can do is so much greater than any other Mario game. In Mario 64, it was already amazing. You could do the triple jump that gets higher each time, you could ground pound, you could do the dive. There's so many different things that Mario could just do. You didn't have to learn them. They're just part of what Mario's mechanics are. And then in Mario Odyssey, that's just doubled. There's so much stuff you can do. You can, throw your hat, jump off your hat, keep your hat spinning around you, hold your hat in place. You can dive, you can jump all sorts of ways. You don't even need the game. You could just have Mario and it'd be fun. But on top of that, all the worlds and the challenges in the game are really enjoyable. Like those golden Koopas, after you beat a level, you then unlock a race throughout the level to try and cover all that ground as quickly as you can. And then once you beat the game, now you unlock an even harder race against the Golden Koopas to go twice as fast. In that game, I 100%ed it. I got everything except for all of the costumes that cost just coins because I didn't want to grind out coins for hours just to unlock some extra costumes. So I contented myself with just everything you get from the stars and the colored coins from each level. And Wizard of Legend is an indie game, and it looked pretty interesting to me, and it was pretty cheap too. I think it was $15. It's a roguelike game. You have to go through this dungeon, fight enemies, and there's just a bunch of spells that you use, and the graphics looked really cool. Sometimes I'm not a fan of retro graphics, but they're done in a way that makes them actually look really modern. Lots of cool effects and just really smooth graphics. In that game and just the gameplay, you can zip around, you can dash around, and there's a whole bunch of spells that you can learn, and each time you go into the dungeon, you can take like 4 spells with you that you're going to use for that run. It's just a really fast-paced, fun game. It doesn't have a plot or anything. It's just fighting stuff using your wizardly powers. It's a pretty simple, enjoyable game. And I also got Octopath Traveler. That game I had been looking forward to for a solid year or 6 months. They were doing some heavy promoting with it, like on their YouTube channel, on the Nintendo YouTube channel. Every couple of weeks or months, they would have a new video showing some features for Octopath Traveler. And that game is a JRPG, and there's 8 different characters, and you choose one to start off with, and then you have to go around the map and collect the others. And in your party of characters, you can have 4 people total, so there's 4 like sitting around in the tavern doing nothing, and you can swap them out however you want to. Turn-based combat system with each character specializing in a different thing, and each character has their own ability that they can use in the overworld. Like there's the thief who can unlock these locked chests that you can find. There's the scholar who can find out information about people. And that game was actually really enjoyable, especially the combat. They had a cool combat system where not just turn-based, but each enemy had a certain amount of defense that you had to break through, and then once you break through it, you have one round to deal damage to them, and then they get their defense back. And to break through their defense, you have to use specific damage types. And that game was really interesting at first, but it kind of became less interesting as it went on. The story exposed itself to be, I don't know, last minute or not really thought through well enough or not cohesive enough. Each chapter you do with your character is like a story in itself, and as the game went on, it just kind of felt less and less interesting. And there is a kind of cool subplot going on throughout the whole story that ends up actually kind of being the main plot, because you can beat the game, but then to truly beat the game, there's like a secret last boss that has to deal with all of the subplot stuff that's been going on in the background of all these 8 characters. And that last boss I have not beat. I fought it. There's 2 main phases. I beat the first phase easily because I had like a level 70 Cyrus scholar, and he's just incredibly overpowered. Especially if you make his secondary class the wizard, then he's just incredibly powerful. Except the thing with that last boss is you use your first team of 4 and then your second team of 4 for the second phase. And my second team of 4, in comparison, really kind of wasn't as good. They were all the characters I didn't use as often. So if I wanted to beat that last boss, I'd have to spend like 10 hours grinding all of these characters up to a high enough level, and I just didn't feel like doing that. Still, I had a lot of fun with that game. I also got Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, and ever since I played Monster Hunter 3 on the Wii, I've been a big fan of that series. I love the way you fight these giant monsters. They don't have health bars like lots of games do, and instead the way you judge how weak the monster is based off their behavior and the damage you've done to them. For instance, if you hit them a lot in the head, you'll break off their horns, you can cut off their tail. So that's how you know that you're whittling their like health pool down. And then once they get really weak, they start like drooling and they try to run away, they start limping. So it's more just using your knowledge of the game rather than external like UI information that you're just given. So it's kind of like, it's like skill based in some ways, but it also provides a satisfying grind where you fight a new monster. It's hard at first, you learn its mechanics, and it becomes easier. You kill it a few times and you craft gear from its body parts that make your character stronger with stats, and then now that enemy becomes even easier because you know its mechanics and you've got better gear. So then now you can not worry about that monster anymore and move on to the next one. And each one has its own unique mechanics and gear to make. And it's just a really fun gameplay loop. However, at a certain point, I had to stop playing that game because basically half the game is like online, and I don't really want to get the Nintendo Internet online package thing because I really don't get this like Xbox and all that. Like, I don't have an Xbox anymore, but you are already paying for the internet of your apartment or home or whatever through the internet provider. But then if you want to play online games, you also have to pay an additional internet fee per month to play those games online through Nintendo or through Microsoft. It doesn't make any sense, and I'm not gonna support that. So these missions that are online missions in Monster Hunter can be completed single player. It's just all the monsters are like 3 times harder, so it just takes more time, and it's not really meant for single player. And so I just decided to stick to the single player story and then beat that, and then I could be done with the game. And if I ever felt like getting the online thing, then I could go back to all the online missions. So Moonlighter, that is also an indie game brought to the Switch after it released on other platforms. And that game was also pretty simple, like a lot of the indie games are. Short game, also like Monster Hunter, like Wizard of Legend, with a satisfying gameplay loop where there's these 4 dungeons in the game, but there's 2 phases to every day in the game. There's the night and the daytime phase. And in the daytime phase, you have this shop that you run that you can sell stuff that you've collected from these dungeons. In the nighttime phase, you can't open your shop, so then you're incentivized to spend your nights at the dungeons. And that's why it's called Moonlighter, because you moonlight as an adventurer, but you make your money from selling the stuff you found on your adventures. There's these 4 dungeons, and at first 3 of them are locked, and you can go into one of them. And you go into that dungeon, you have to go down like 3 levels and fight a boss at the end. You continuously go down there and gather materials, come back to town, sell them, try to craft gear with the money or the materials that you've gathered, and then go back in and try to get further in that dungeon until you beat the boss. And then once you beat the boss of the first dungeon, you unlock the second dungeon, and then you rinse and repeat. Each dungeon gets harder and you make more and more money. So like towards the end of the game, you're making millions of gold, where at the beginning of the game you were making a few hundred. After only about 8 hours of playtime, I beat the game, so I decided to just play the N+, just redo it again, just on a higher difficulty, and that took me another 6 hours. It was like a $20 game. I got 15 hours of playtime out of it. So The Messenger, my brother had told me about that game. He said it was really fun, really cool, with really like interesting dialogue. And after like a month, I decided to check it out myself. It was cheap, like $15, also an indie game, made by a French company, I think. And he was totally right. That game starts off like a 2D platformer with like distinct individual levels like Mario. However, after about halfway through the game, things turn around and you find out that all of these levels are actually an interconnected world, more like a Metroidvania. There's this time travel element where in the past it's 8-bit and in the future it's 16-bit. And Slay the Spire, that one was another game that I had been waiting on for months or a year even, because it came out on Steam and I didn't want to buy it on Steam. I kind of prefer to do my video game playing on the Switch, and it finally came out a few months ago. There's the spire and you have to climb these rooms, and in each room there's like a shop or a combat or some encounter that you have to choose a choice. And you start off with a simple deck and you upgrade your deck, you add cards to it, you can remove cards from it, you can try to customize your deck. There's randomness involved, sure, but you try to shape your deck so that as the challenges get harder and harder, you can overcome them. And it's actually quite difficult. I've only beaten it like 3 times out of maybe like 12 attempts. After beating it with each of the 3 character classes, you unlock these keys that you can find next time you play through. And if you collect all the keys on a playthrough and then beat the 3rd level, which is the last level of the Spire, it actually unlocks a secret 4th level, which is the true ending of the game. I've gotten to the very last boss, but I have not beaten him because he's just crazy hard and I didn't have a good enough deck. So that's a game that I'm still playing. And Overcooked, I got that because I didn't have any multiplayer games. All of the games I own are single player, and I wanted a multiplayer game that I could play with my girlfriend that I think she might enjoy. And Overcooked is simple enough in theory. You know, there's like 3 buttons and it's not based on some like fantasy concept. It's just like make food. And then the fun there is it's really stressful and you have to have good teamwork and cooperation. So I got Overcooked to play it with my girlfriend, and we played it a few times, and it's been fun and stressful. But I thought that would be a better game to get for us rather than say like Super Smash Bros. I don't think she would like Super Smash Bros. At all. And Overcooked, I got it for free because I used my like built up Nintendo points that I got for buying other games. And the latest game now that I've got that I've been having a lot of fun with, and I only put like 4 hours into so far, but I understand why people like it so much, is Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight is a Metroidvania with an amazing art style. Apparently it's all like hand-drawn, and the music and just like ambiance of the game is really, I feel I keep on going back to this word in my mind, like elegant and mysterious, and it's just like, it's a compelling game. Like the character is really cute and the world is really cool, and the movement just feels so nice. Like you can control your jumps easily. You're not slipping all over the place like Luigi does. It's just like responsive, a really well-designed game, and I haven't gotten very far into it, but I'm excited to get further in and keep playing it. So those are all the games I own. I said I would say the 3 top best ones. Now obviously Breath of the Wild, first place. And I think second place, Super Mario Odyssey. That was a really fun game. Less worth the money than Breath of the Wild, because Breath of the Wild costs the same as Mario Odyssey, and you can get 5 times as much playtime out of it. And the third game, that's the hard one. I almost kind of want to say Hollow Knight, but I'm not going to say that because I haven't beaten it yet. I haven't played enough of it to know how good it truly is. It has a good first impression for sure. So I think number 3 is going to be Stardew Valley. That's just an amazing game. so much passion poured into that game. So purely as a project somebody cared about for years and put all their time and resources into, that you just can't play that game and not be amazed by it and kind of fall in love with it. So Stardew Valley for sure. So those are my favorite games on the Switch that I've played. I'm sure there are many of other good ones I haven't played. But games that are coming out soon to the Switch that I'm excited about are all of the Dungeons and Dragons games coming out in September, like Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, Neverwinter Nights, Planescape Torment, especially that one. I've heard from so many people I know and people online, that Planescape Torment is the best game, or the best RPG at the very least. Apparently there's so much like choice in lore and really fun gameplay and interesting ideas in there. So I'm totally going to buy that first day it comes out. I'll probably buy Planescape Torment, play that, and then if I feel like playing another true RPG like that, then I'll get Baldur's Gate. I played Baldur's Gate's Dark Alliance on the GameCube as a kid, and I really loved that. So yeah, I'll probably get all those, but not right away. I'll spread those purchases out through a year or two. I'm also really looking forward to Link's Awakening coming out, I think, in September. I'm also looking forward to Luigi's Mansion 3. I actually didn't even realize there was a second one. I didn't ever get it on the 3DS, but I enjoyed the first Luigi's Mansion on GameCube. So I'm going to get it for the Switch. I'm really, really looking forward to The Witcher 3 coming out on the Switch. Because I don't have an Xbox One. I had an Xbox 360. And I have always known, since I saw footage of The Witcher 3 for the first time and saw my friends playing it, and that is straight up my alley. Like Skyrim, The Witcher, like those games are exactly the type of game that I like. So I'm going to play the heck out of that when it comes out. I don't know when it's coming out. Sometime this year, so maybe like December or November. And also, I don't know when this one is coming out, but I think I heard A Hat in Time is going to be coming to the Switch at some point, and that game looks like a really great collectathon. Like, I love Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie, Donkey Kong 64, so I'll definitely be buying that one whenever it comes out also. So there are the games I have on my Switch and which ones I like the most. I definitely recommend checking them all out. I try to only buy games that I know are good. I don't really like to waste money or time on a game that I don't think I'll like. So I have liked all the games that I've played, just some more than others. And some I feel like have been more worth the money than others, but I feel like they've all still been worth it. So check those out if you want, and thanks for watching. Until next time.